Welcome in. Oh, we got hit that. This is starting out great, just like the game for the Seahawks. Welcome in, welcome once again to the newest edition of 3 In, 3 Out. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner. Find me out on Twitter at Clinton Bon. I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brandon Schultz. Find him out on Twitter at Seahawkers Pod. Brandon, 3 In, 3 Out is a unique Seahawks recap. Seahawks. What's that? What is this? Seahawks recap show. And we pride ourselves in hitting the nooks and the crannies. 3 things on the inside of the ledger, 3 things on the outside of the ledger. And yet there's some blatant things. There's some things here in a 30-17 big time loss on the road out in Minnesota. The Purple People Eaters ate. And they ate the Hawkra on Sunday, Brandon. How's it hitting you on this Monday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit bothered by it. 2 losses out of 3 games to start the season. Not how we wanted things to go, especially with, it's when there's so many things that we were concerned about over the offseason of how it would go. And then to see a lot of those things materialize now in these first 2 losses of the season. I'm seeing where my fears are just coming true, and
it is frustrating, and for me, it also put more of a hyper focus back on the Titans game, which I wasn't wanting to revisit, but it was like immediately like, dang it, if we're 2-1, it's like whatever. You roll into Minnesota, they lost 2 close games, and you get your lunch handed to you. Whatever, you figure it out after that, right? At 2-1, but not the lot we sit in right now. So we're gonna have to roll. Now the thing is, for me, I do want to address at the onset too, before we get into the ins and the outs, or the outs and the ins, as it will be this time. Thing I want to address though is I do think there is a lot of hyperbole already. I mean, obviously, Seahawks Twitter is Seahawks Twitter, and it's crazy reactions.
If we fired everybody that Seahawks Twitter suggests we fire on the day after this game, I don't think we'd be able to field a team for next week.
Yeah, we would not have a coaching staff. We wouldn't have corners, and some of that stuff might hurt us. So it's
I don't know. I'm ready to start playing without corners just to see. Linebackers out there. Who knows? Could it be worse?
But yeah, between the fire everybody Twitter sphere, which some of that we'll probably talk about, and the never kick, never punt, never kick crew that just comes out of the woodwork every time somebody, dare punts a ball in the NFL,
or overlap in that Venn diagram.
Oh yeah. There's a big there. Yeah, there's a big overlap there. I kind of feel like, but between those 2 pods of people, yeah, we wouldn't have 1/3 of our team. And again, some of that might actually hurt us. So we'll have to get into all that. And I want to say at the onset though that yes, we're 1-2. It's a 17 game season. The NFL has been reminding us of that every single week. All is not lost. All is not lost. We're going to go through some of these things. And there were moments of like absolute clarity and genius and beautiful football play where, again, with the Titans game and now this game, it's like, we're just not playing complete games. And obviously one side of the ball was, but to me, more glaring this week than last week. We're not putting it all together yet. However, I mean, Brandon, throughout the years, has John Schneider sat on his hands when he knew there was a problem, or did he go and try to make something happen, even if it was mid-season?
Generally, he has made things happen mid-season that's made this team better. And that's where I think we saw a little bit of people on Twitter and social media saying, oh, CJ Henderson, he was available from the Jaguars, another corner, go get him. Instead, he goes to the Panthers for a 3rd round pick, I think is essentially what would have been needed to be given up. But, I feel like that is more of a panic move going to get a guy who is a questionable upgrade over who you have on the team. Yeah, he was a top 10 pick? I knew he was at least top 15, but he hasn't shown much. I look at his passes defensed, and it's 6, and that's That's Trey Flowers level passes defense through the equal number of games sometimes.
2 weeks with a concussion's just a little worrisome. To begin with, it's like, okay, I get it. Dude's banged up. We want him back there. And actually, I don't have this player on the inside of the ledger. So just giving some love early to Freddie Swain, saying our third wide receiver has not been the problem. This game, offensively, we had more of that mojo, especially the first half, which we saw in game one. We saw a misdirection. We saw pop passes this time. We saw effective tight end usage, right? We saw middle of the field usage. Like that was, again, especially the first half, that was not the issue. So it was like we had way more of a game one offense going, which we called out last week saying, wait, just because D's not out there, we can't do misdirection. We can't put a guy in motion. We can't get Russ outside the pocket. We did all those things. So like that. So I think the nice part, Brandon, is we solved the Katata Fish's riddle that D. Eskridge, as much as I like the young man, he's not the keystone to the offense that week two made it seem like he was.
No, it turns out maybe the keystone is Brandon Shell. And unfortunately, we did not have him in this game either.
Yeah. So there were some struggles. There was some struggle bust there. And talking about struggles, we don't get to start with the in. We take the L. So we got to hop on over and start 3 in, 3 out in the way we don't want to. We got to do it. Got to start with an out. Still going to take a drink. Here we are.
Well, you false started this show.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. And then I can't even draw a correlation to that with the penalties because I don't think we had any false starts on offense.
No, that was week 2, 4th and 1, Damian Lewis. However, what I did was the kickoff, and I've only been doing this for X amount of years, so I should
gotta wait for the music.
gotta wait for the music. Exactly. I should know better. Speaking of should know better, so it is 3 in, 3 out. I want to talk about Trey Flowers. Okay. And he's getting the first out. I don't want to, hide it or anything. Scarlet O is going to Trey Flowers. Now, the thing is
so big that you have to wear it that, it's not a nook or a cranny. Everybody knows what the problem is, but we got to start here anyway.
And the play that showed me like he wasn't there yet and just hasn't been, it was not even one of the ones that's like, oh, there's another 5 yards of cushion. Oh, there's another 7 yards of cushion, because we just saw that over and over and over. It was mind numbing. However, early in the game, it's 7-0 us. We come out, we had that beautiful drive. DK Metcalf, he had 4 receptions, 2 or 3 over the middle, the out for the 6. Freaking, Carson's running the ball the first drive. Beautiful. We come out and we lay a freaking stinker. And the biggest part for me was there was a wide receiver screen to Jefferson. Okay. So, okay, whatever. They're going to screen the ball. Now, Jefferson receives the ball. Flowers is 1,000%, which I know is mathematically not correct, flat-footed. All right. A1, not great. Don't be flat-footed, like literally flat-footed when a receiver is receiving a wide receiver screen. Then, even though you can see Diggs storming over, he has help coming. He just sits there, does not move his feet. He lets Jefferson just get a head of steam and run upfield and truck him, for another half a yard or so, where it's like, dude, you let the guy, you sat there, let him receive it, let him set and charge at you. His feet don't friggin' move once. They don't move. So it just like this was a get up off the couch moment in the worst way. Earlier, I'm like, how are you doing that as an NFL cornerback where there is so much passivity? That can't be right. There's so much passiveness in your game that you're just not attacking a dude. You recognized it was a screen. You just sat there and watched it go to him, and he waits for him to bring the contact to him. Even in a screen pass, he has this Stay Puft freaking cushion that he puts around him and the guy. Drove me bananas out of Jump Street. So besides the horrible game, I don't think that guy should play corner for us, barring injury, really ever again. That play was like the epitome of why, as a ball player, I just don't like him out there.
It was almost as if it was strange because he stood there with his feet planted as Jefferson was catching the football.
Yes.
and didn't even make any kind of break at all. Like usually on those screens, there's some time in the air. You go, okay, quarterback's throwing the ball. He obviously had, he didn't have his back to the quarterback.
Nope.
So he saw the quarterback throw the ball. He saw that it was going short, and he stood there as if that was one of the weirdest plays that I usually get on the fact that on offense, you see a lot of the Seahawks receivers stand there and wait for the football as it's coming to them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's how they practice it in Seattle, because if you're Flowers, then you're just used to seeing that, and you can wait for the guy to catch the ball before you even make a move, wait for him to come to you. Maybe that's why the wide receiver screens are so successful in practice for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
They're defending them.
Yeah, apparently, right? People could just, doesn't matter who you are, you could screen on us all day, sans KJ, right? And but you nailed it. Like that was exactly what he did. And I don't know.
So baffling. I'm speechless thinking about it now that you've brought it up.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. This is the format, right? So, and the reason I wanted to pick this play out is because I know everybody's going to talk about the 5 yards of cushion and sometimes more, 7 yards of freaking cushion.
Well, and we can talk about that for a second, because that you can't necessarily just put that on Trey Flowers, because that's a defensive scheme that we've seen. That's how they play zone defense in some cases, and so. Yeah, there's going to be some times where he's up on the guy. There's going to be some times where he's back off in zone. And so teams are able to take advantage of that sometimes. But this play, it's obvious. Like, dude, you have to go after the guy who's receiving the football.
And I feel like maybe it's just there's such a mentality of not giving up the big play that that is like to the extreme is the point. Right? Like all the other plays, dudes crossing, 10-yard outs, not getting a jam at the line, all these maddening things that you don't want to see from a whether it's zone or man from your corner. And then you see this and it's like, wow, this is to the extreme where it's like, okay, were you just thinking no matter what, I'm not going to let Jefferson do what Derrick Henry did to me last week? Like, and I'm pretty sure it's Diggs. Diggs is flying in to help out because it was a little bubble screen. So it's just bad. I hope that on Tell the Truth Tuesday, they tell the friggin' truth. And then they say, you know what? We can't do that again. We get Sidney Jones out here. So Flowers, for many reasons, you're taking the first O. There is good stuff to talk about. Flip the switch, Brandon. Let's hit it.
Tell the Truth Monday. It's the day off on Tuesday.
Nice. Thank you. I'm all 6s and 7s to start this thing. So we're on the inside the ledger, and there is beauty in this tragedy. Often there is beauty in tragedy, a little Shakespearean type things, right? What I want to call out is when you see Dwayne Brown kick a dude 4 yards left, and you see Damian Lewis seal a guy so freaking well to the interior. And then downfield about 5 yards, 6 yards already, you got DK Metcalf executing a beautiful block, letting go at the right time, not holding. And you see a 30-yard dash from Chris Carson up the gut where he's not touched and he's into the hallway. That play is, for me, as a bit of an old school smash mouth football kind of guy, it's the epitome of holy crap. We can do these things. We can, we could beat many teams offensively in a variety of ways. At that point, the game is 10-7. That makes it 17-7. So within short order, I think we had the ball 3 times. One's a DK touchdown where they couldn't touch us. One, they stopped us for the field goal. And then this one is another nice drive. That's a 30-yard touchdown run where the running back is not touched. So it's a bit of scheme, but I want to give the love to the blockers there. And that's the end for me, is like, man, when we are clicking, we are still extremely dangerous on offense. And that's still why I'm saying, while the defense looked bad, all is not lost. That's my first in.
That particular play, that play took me back to the Mike Holmgren era with the 2004, 2005 offensive line, Sean Alexander running the ball and taking it from 30 yards out into the end zone with just not a guy touching him. It was exactly like that. And I know that, Chris Carson, generally, he's a guy that will get touched on yards that are
Right.
30 plus yards. But for him to go untouched like that, it was a beautiful thing.
That was actually one where he might have been gone for 50 or 60 because he had that much momentum by the time he's blown past the last safety. And like you said, he's not the breakaway speed kind of guy. That's just not his thing. And I won't talk about him anymore. I don't have anything else there on the Carson side. However, I think I've said this before in previous podcasts where even though I'm a New Yorker who lives in Connecticut, I was also a huge Supersonics fan growing up. That was my basketball team.
Right.
And I always looked at, like, back then, Sean Kemp was the Sonics basically never lost. If Kemp was somewhere between 18 and 22, 17 and 21, 11 rebounds, like 6 assists. That's when the Supersonics, they beat everybody on the nights when Sean Kemp did that. Sean Kemp was down to 12. Sean Kemp scored 32. They lost those games. They did not win those games. There was a Goldilocks zone where that team was beautifully dominant. Chris Carson had 14 touches, 12 rushes. 12 rushes when you're averaging nearly 7 yards a carry is not enough. It's not. And I realized we had our challenges in the second half to get going. I would say we had challenges because he doesn't touch the damn ball enough. It's part and parcel of like why we're having those challenges. 14 touches for that dude is not enough.
I would like to see him get the ball more. I think he would have. It's just they were so unable to convert on third down. They converted 3 straight first downs or 3 straight third downs.
Yep.
And then they never got another one for the rest of the game. So, hey, we're turning this into an out. We got to stop that.
Yes, I understand we are. It's just my love for the run game, my love for Chris Carson. Those are my true colors. They're gonna shine through. All right, let's flip it. We got somewhere else to get to. Hit the darn thing. All right, not even drinking this time. Just gonna roll into this. Just gonna get right to it. Here we are. So, man, we had some other issues. I'm looking. So this other one for me, Brandon, is another kind of GOAT for the game here. And so far, a little bit of a GOAT for the season where people are really starting to chirp. So it's at this point, it's 17-7. So we're up. We're in Q2. And what I'm looking at is that Thielen touchdown, right? So all right, the Vikings move the ball. They progress the ball the way they do. And just like the dude on the podcast said he would, Cousins will take whatever's given to him. There was a decent amount of intermediate shots, and there was plenty of screens, stuff over the middle, dump offs, you name it. It was open. So whatever, just he took it. On that Thielen touchdown in particular, Jamal Adams, I've talked about the no man's land in tennis before. I played a little bit of tennis in my day, not a lot, but a little bit. And my instructor back in the day was like, you either play the net or you play the baseline. You play the net or you play the baseline. And if you are in between those two places, any player worth their salt, it's literally no man's land. You're going to get torched. You can't play in between. And on that particular play, if you go back and watch, you see Adams, first of all, like bump into somebody. Like I'm not sure who it was. It might have been like the nickel. It might have been Amadi. I'm not sure. And then he kind of blitzes, but then stops short. He doesn't put his hands up, doesn't jump. So he's not involved in the blitz. He's nowhere to be seen. He's obviously not a defender at that point. He's kind of just like 3 to 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage doing nothing. And I just don't get it. It's like, I understand things happen quickly within a given play, but it's just like, dude, that no man's land with your skill set just did not sit well with me. So hate to give it to the man, but Adams is wearing the O. That just seemed like he was out of the play. He made it a 11 on 10 when you were the blitzer.
And whether or not he was the blitzer, I guess we don't know because he didn't act as if it was like he dropped back and then maybe saw a hole and started to run up to it, and then the hole closed up, and so he backed off. But yeah, he got into a place to where he was completely out of the play. And at that point, he would have been much better, at least dropping back into coverage and being at least an extra guy back there in case Cousins had to hold the ball a little bit longer. You got to trust the pass rush to get there. And that's what I wonder if Adams just, I feel like he's at the point where he needs to have a role, and you have to make a decision on what you're going to do with him on the play. Because yes, I know it makes sense for him to have some kind of leeway, and that if he recognizes a play and he can, make that run blitz and make a big play happen. But we shouldn't see plays like that for a guy at his level.
It seems like JV, right? It seems like, like I played a little bit of football. I wasn't very good at football, right? So I mean, I love the game.
Well, it's just that you have to make a decision on what you're going to do and do it. And he ended up trying to, it was so indecisive out there that it was very apparent.
It just seemed like a dude who hadn't been there before, like hadn't been in that situation before. It's like, wait a second, dude, you literally been here 1,000 times, and I'm with you. Like whether he just decides to just literally haul ass backwards and clog up the middle. Well, the ball went right over his head, and right over his head. And was still, you got to give Cousins some credit. There were, yes, he had some time, and yes, dudes were wide open, but there were also other plays where, Cody Barton's in his face in half a millisecond. And he's still
ridiculous.
Just, it's like, again, it's like tip the hat. And then this week, what we didn't get, which we got last week, we got drops last week from guys like AJ Brown and Julio Jones. That didn't happen. They caught everything. So we got burnt. So that's the other out for me. It's just like finding the, maybe it's a little finding himself, right? It's like, hey, if you got to let the guy go be more of an animal and really go blitz to kind of find his groove, well, so be it. This no man's land is no place to live for Adam. So that's the second O for me, Brandon. All right. We're flipping this. Okay. There were more positive things. One of the things I loved about this game when we saw it was that we saw, more tight end usage than we did in week 2, certainly. And it was way more like week 1, where these dudes were a main part of the offense when the offense was clicking. And yes, I realized the second half had problems, offensively and certainly defensively. But Q3, it's 21-17. There's about 8 minutes. Oh, wait. I'm getting my stars mixed here. My bad. Hit that, rewind it again. Q4, about 13:20 to go. So Q4, about 13:20 to go. It's a 2nd and 9 after like a little play went nowhere for 1 yard, obviously. And Everett just does a little turnaround play. So it's 27-17, 2nd and 9, Q4, 13:20. Everett does a little turnaround play, catches the ball at the 30-yard line, and he just bulldozes like 3 or 4 dudes and goes for 9 more yards after contact to get to Seattle's 39-yard line. Kind of get the drive going, get us, hopefully get us some love. Now, the very next play, I think, is the play to Lockett, where our hearts freaking hit the floor there, and a couple of other things. But it was just that beautiful, again, the reminder, Brandon, that, oh yeah, when we want to, we could do whatever the hell we want to do. And it was just one of those moments like, all right, 2nd and 9, check it down to a little 5-yard little dig there. Let Everett be an athlete. He goes and picks up like 14 yards on the play, 9 yards after catch. And there's a tough yards. And I'm sitting there going, all right, we're down 10, but it's early Q4. After that play, I'm like, we can still win this game. Now, I didn't break the right way, but if we had made a comeback, that was the one I was circling early, because, again, it was just like, dude, we can do what we want to when we make smart choices.
That one felt like the start of a potential momentum shift, right? And that's why you circle a play like that, because, it was Everett just bulldozing through. And unfortunately for Tyler to get hurt then on the next play, I feel like it took so much out of the team, so much of that emotion, that they couldn't hold on to that moment that Everett had given them the play before. And it just shows you how things can go in a game, that when you just start to feel like things are swinging your way, and then for Lockett to get hurt in the way that he did. Fortunately, he was okay. He was back out there on the final drive, But then that was the drive that ended in, and again, I feel like we're switching over to an out, but it was the same drive where they end up punting on 4th and 7 in the fourth quarter and giving it right back to the Vikings.
Yeah, and maybe we'll touch on that later. I know we got some from the flock talk about that punt, and I have a take there as well. And we could pick that up in the from the flock section. And man to man, let me ask you this: right after the Lockett play, who are you texting with? Are you texting, and what are you saying to people at that moment, or what are you just internally thinking? What was going through your brain? Or
you don't. Well, and I was immediately concerned about Lockett as soon as they showed the replay on that. Everybody was looking at the fumble. I'm looking at Tyler's ankle, and so that whole time I'm wondering if the dude's going to be okay. And it's not until I felt like it was such a weight that we even got word that there was any kind of concern for Tyler while they were doing the whole replay. And so I was waiting to see if he was okay.
Yeah, I was focused on his face. He clearly was in like immediate pain. And in my brain, I'm like, oh my gosh, like all the CLs, one of the CLs, like something, I thought something went. I thought it was a knee thing. And my heart dropped. I'm like, man, this team without Lockett, we could be okay. But we would be nowhere near the same. We just would not be the same without Tyler Lockett. He's that important to, I think, the entire organization at this point. So somehow, some way, the dude is extremely pliable. He gets up, he walks off, which was awesome. He returns, and hopefully he's a little sore today. Just get back with it, and we'll see him versus the Niners next week, which is a bit of a miracle. So a little pseudo in otherwise tucked in there. Just great to see Lockett just be okay. So all right, we got one more out to flip to. Hit the switch there, if you will, good sir. All right, thank you. Okay, so there was a call in the Getting the Flock, in the Seahawkers Pod Ring of Honor that like, hey, we already do a brand in. When we win, Brandon gets the 7th in. Why do we do?
Are you putting work on me when we get out?
No.
Yeah. When we win, there's a celebratory. Like I want to do the extra work to have an in.
Exactly.
I don't want to have to give an out when there's
no. We don't want an extra out. So this is not what I'm framing it as is this is not a tradition like many other out there. What we're just doing is simply that I'm going to pass the torch for the third out for this time. It's not an extra out. This is not the brand out. This is simply me telling Brandon like, hey, dude, I didn't get to watch this thing back yet. I don't have a real third out. That's not like an obvious like Ugo Amadi holding penalty. Could you come here and help me out? And of course, like a good neighbor, Brandon is there. So Brandon, what's one really got, what ate Gilbert Grape on your side this week? And you're like, man, this one really, really just hit you wrong. What do you got?
Man, let's talk about this Ugo Amadi penalty.
Brandon.
I'll give you one. I'll give you a real one, Clinton. One that just ate me up in the moment that it happened. And it was with 1 second left to go right before the half. They have the ball at midfield, and you think, okay, here we go. Russell's just going to uncork one. They're going to take a shot at the end zone. Hopefully they get a touchdown here to help close the half. And we can feel real good about this momentum that they lost because, they're down 21-17 at this point. This will get them ahead with a score.
Take a chance.
And what happens? Not a chance. Just Russ drops back and hits Travis Homer out in the flat for 31 yards. It doesn't even benefit somebody who has Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf on their fantasy team to pick up 30 yards. Like this, nobody has Travis Homer in their fantasy, and there's no way the dude is going to score from 50 yards out. The entire team is going to be able to close in on Homer before he gets to the end zone. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to be cute. And this comes after trying to do it again the previous week at the end of the game. You have Russell Wilson. You're at midfield. The dude can uncork a deep ball, throw it up, and give a chance to one of your big guys.
Yeah, we got big dudes there. So there was so much about this that irritated me. Number one is, The no chance of the sexy deep ball, moonshot, Hail Mary. Try it. You got DK. You got guys like Gerald Everett with great hands. Just freaking try it, right? That's A1. The thing that really got me going on this one, thank you. This is a perfect out here, is the fact that it was Travis Homer. It's like, I know, I get it. I know we're in the 2-minute drill and I get all that crap. However, this is you're scheming that play for that guy. Okay. So you're scheming this play for that guy. Well, then why not let it be Chris Carson? Why not let it be a guy that can actually truck people? Why not let it be one of your best athletes? Why not let that be DK Metcalf and let him get ahead of steam and say, okay, rugby play. It's a rugby play. You could, if you could tackle DK before the 10, good luck. And if he gets, if it's that close, then we're getting excited, right? No. Travis Homer gets to whatever, open field, makes like one little juke, and he's just like, it's Larry freaking Holmes carrying a watermelon, plodding along in the 15th round. It's like, he's got no shot at this. And there's nobody there for a lateral, like I thought maybe a little.
But, DK is probably not going to be the guy who's open in that situation. But maybe if you throw it to Homer and then have the lateral to DK and you can, if you can somehow get the ball in his hands.
If that's the play, they're all running down to defend crap, then let it just be. I mean, here's the simple thing. If that's your play, let it be Carson. Let it be the dude that can truck people, that can get up ahead of steam, and who could bulldoze people and make moves in the open field. It ain't freaking Travis Homer. So great out, sucky out, but great out. We got one more in. Yeah, that's a good job by you. All right, hit the thingy. There's the thingy. All right. Okay. So as I was saying earlier, I kind of, for those watching the YouTube version, and that's how I'm going to say it from now on, quarter three.
Muting YouTube people.
Yeah. Quarter three, 21-17, about 8 minutes to go. Once again, the Vikings have been driving. And it's just another one of these drives where you're like, holy Hannah, can we get a freaking stop? Can we hold them to a field goal? When you're sitting there like that's your wish, can we just hold them to a field goal attempt, please? And they're at the 14-yard line. Hyder got hurt earlier in the game, and it ended up giving some love for Robinson to get in the game and get more snaps. Well, you know what? That quarter three play, there is a beautiful little shot where it's a first down, and Alton's on the right. He's on the right edge. I think he's lined up with with Conklin, the Vikings tight end, and he just slays the dude. He stands him up, blows him 4 yards into the backfield, and then hits Madison. And Monet, to his credit, is right there as well. And they gobble up Madison for about a 2-yard tackle for a loss. And again, it's like, I'm circling that going, hey, if we hold them to a field goal right here, that's a huge freaking play. 2 plays later, Darrell Taylor gets that strip where he does a nice little angling, gets around the edge, gets the strip. Holy Hannah, Brandon, they held it to a field goal. They did it. Like, again, if we come back and tie this game or win this game, we're going to be celebrating that Robinson play. And just because we didn't doesn't mean we shouldn't. So Robinson, that's a beautiful tackle for a loss. And again, go back and watch that. The form and the power to blow past that guy and use him as a freaking human sled. Well done. So that's the in for me, man.
Okay, I'm not going to flip this in over to an out by saying, where the heck was that the rest of the game? But where the heck was that the rest of the game? It was so good in this one moment of the game. It's perhaps the one time on defense where you're going, okay, this is what I expected from this group of guys. And the fact that Taylor was out there, I want more of that.
Yeah, that was a series where they finally looked cohesive, right? Where they dictated the outcome versus just letting it be these large cushions over the middle.
I mean, at least once it got inside the red zone, the first part of the drive didn't look all that great, but
yeah, it's and as we're landing these before we get to the from the flock, which we still got to go, and we still got a lot there. Another thing that I kept seeing on Twitter is like a lot of blame towards Russ in the second half also. And I could be critical of Russ. Go back and watch the show last week. I was fairly critical of Russ, and I could get it. I could also look at things like time of possession and how many chances do you actually have? And yes, there was a missed field goal. And hey, guess what? A kicker's not going to be perfect every year. You got to live with that kind of crap. It sucks. It's a bad time, but he also hit a 50-something yarder. And with that, it's like, yeah, I get it, but they didn't have a lot of chances. Like they didn't have the ball.
Since you brought it up, let's go through this real quick of Russell's of the situations that he's in, because the Vikings got the ball after the half and they drive down, they get the field goal. Okay, good job defense. You held them to a field goal. And then the Seahawks get the ball back, but it was on a 2nd and 10 play where Russ had absolutely no chance, where Everson Griffin just came blowing up through the inside and taking him down for a 9-yard loss. And then at that point, it's 3rd and 19. Right. And what are you going to do?
That was, I think, another Travis Homer dump off, I believe. So yeah.
Homer dump off.
Yeah.
He only got 5 yards that time, but yeah, there's not much that you're going to do there, though. Right. Historically, we've seen that.
Yep.
And so the very next drive was the one again where Lockett got hurt, kind of took everything out of that. Then that was the 3rd and 7 where Russ had an incomplete over the short middle to Swain. And again, he was getting pressure right up the middle. And yeah, he just wasn't able to get that pass in there to Swain. He let him a little bit.
Yeah, so let's park it right there for a second. Is that a throw that I saw Kirk Cousins make? Yes, right? Kirk Cousins hits KJ Osborne. Very similar play when that's the play. Barton was in his face and he gets it there. Okay. Do I want Russ to make that play? Yes. Does he make that play very often? Yes. Would it have been a remarkable one-handed catch if Swain did pull it down? Yeah. It was a little bit, maybe 6 inches to 8 inches off of where that's a catch and run. And it sucks, but the guy was in his face in I don't know what the shot clock would read, but it's like a half a second. No time.
And it wasn't a great throw, but if you're going to put the entire, if you're going to put the blame on Russ for one bad throw in one moment, I have a hard time pinning a whole lot of blame on him. Then you go to the 4th quarter where, gosh, what do you have? 4 minutes left, and now you need 2 touchdowns. At that point, it's going to be tough anyway.
It's miracle time at that point, right? And you had the ball into the end zone, which was, maybe throws it a hair late, but we're talking about we've gotten used to this desperation, Russ will save us crap, that it's we're
going to go to that. It should have been on the 4th down after that missed throw. Give him a second chance. You go right back to him and you see if you can make it on 4th.
Yeah. You know what? Not a bad call there. So what I wanted to defend a little bit was this notion that, Russ somehow was really bad in the second half. I'm like, I just didn't see it that way. It's like we were bad. The team was bad in the second half, including the O-line. And it just took away whatever flow we had in the first half was just, for the most part, shot. And then we're chasing. And just, we're not in a groove where we want to be. We had a game where Carson averaged almost 7 yards a carry, has a long touchdown, and we lost by 2 touchdowns. That's there's a big chasm between what should happen when your lead back is getting 7 yards a freaking carry, 6.7 a carry, and losing by 13.
How about then on that 3rd and 7 play? Maybe you run it with Carson there with the expectation you get a few yards and you're going for it anyway in that situation.
Yeah. And I hear you. And then to get none there and then to punt again, let's say that we're getting to the flock. So I know that's coming up. So
the flock wanted to bring it up. You want to wait and talk about it then. I get it.
Yes. That's too tight. Let's flip it again. Let's get to the from the flock. Let's do it. And there's the music. There it is. All right. So before we do hit the from the flock, we always want to remind people out there, even the ones watching on YouTube, how they could join us, what they can do, and all the ways in which, Brandon, you're putting out content basically 8 days a week at this point, the hardest working man out there. So, Brandon, how can folks get involved? How could they become part of the flock? Where could they find you? Give them the whole thing already.
Yes. Well, shoot, if you're listening to this and you say, hey, what's this YouTube stuff? You can go to the Seahawkers Podcast YouTube channel. You can watch us there. And if you want to become a part of the flock, getintheflock.com. As Clinton has mentioned, there's a lot of input that goes into this show. And a lot of times we get that from the Discord group. And if you go to patreon.com/flock or getintheflock.com. Either one works. You can become a part of that group and help get your input read on the show.
Yes, it's always one of our favorite parts, if not our favorite part. A little more fun when we win. However, we got to get through it when we do lose as well, and maybe a little bit of a catharsis. A therapy, talking with our fellow Hawkers here about what the hell just went wrong. So we got from the flock. We're gonna start this. We're gonna start with an in. We're gonna start with an in here, Brandon. He was Michael Paul in the Seahawkers Pod Ring of Honor. Michael Paul is continuously jabbing me and I him about Rashad Penny, but he says in Chris Carson doing his best Rashad Penny impersonation, running in the open field. Wink. Seriously, it was a great run. So Michael, appreciate you, putting some respect on Carson's name there. And hey, listen, I'm not anti Rashad Penny. Let's get him back and get him healthy and give him those kind of holes. Let's go.
Brian Wallace at Brian Wallace 22 on Twitter, talking about that same play, gives the in to DK for his block on Carson's touchdown. He also gives an out to the entire secondary.
Yeah. No lies detected there. We also had Bailey 516-72104. Not sure if that's a phone number or what's happening there with Bailey, but that's a lot of digits. We like it though. Bailey says out Ken Norton Jr. having a job after last season and probably after another terrible defensive showing. So there was lots. I saw Brandon with this particular stat. I forget who was tweeting it. Saw it today that the Seahawks keep the same defensive structure. So like what they show pre-snap, they keep that 92% of the time. That's to date for the first 30 games of the year. And they were juxtaposing that versus it was like the Rams and somebody else that are the best, if you will. They change it up the most often. So they keep the structure about 60% of the time. So 32% more of the time, the Seattle is out there versus the Rams. Seattle shows you what they're going to do and doesn't change the look from what you think they're going to do defensively. So how are you feeling about Ken Norton Jr. at this time at the 1-2 mark?
Well, again, it's hard to differentiate if that's a Pete Carroll problem or a Ken Norton Jr. problem, because I feel like that's how they've operated on defense for Pete Carroll's entire time. Now, it was different when they had the kind of personnel that you could say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You try and beat it, and nobody could beat it just because you had that many great players on the defense. It's a little bit different when maybe you don't have the greatest dudes out there. So I do feel like, especially with a player like Jamal Adams, that's a guy that a chess piece that you can move around and say, okay, quarterback, this is the defense that we're showing you pre-snap. And then Jamal makes some moves and shows you a little bit something different right as the ball's being snapped to make you think a little bit more about where you're going to go with the football. That can have a big impact on your defensive line and how quickly if the quarterback holds on to an extra split second, giving your defensive line a little bit more time to get to him.
I sure would like to see a little bit more of it. We talked in the preseason that we felt like we got faster. Now this game, there's no Blair. I did not think Amadi played a very strong game. Blair is a piece out there that's super fast. Brooks has not been great so far this year, but he is fast. So I feel like we've got the athleticism to do these things. And Taylor, you've got the athleticism to try these things, but yet we're not doing them. And then there was that one play where they showed the Vikings did it's on one of the sacks. It might've been Griffin's sack. I forget what it was, but they had 5 or 6 dudes. And then at the snap, you had one interior guy dropping back. You had the right edge pulling, another guy stunting. It was really, really well done. And you could just see that in a split second, having to make a decision, the interior of the Seahawks line didn't know who was who. It just couldn't recognize it quick enough. And I think it was a sack or immediate pressure.
It was the sack up the middle because it ended up leaving Damian Lewis kind of without a man to block, but they had overloaded that right side of the Seahawks offensive line. And so, Damian Lewis starts dropping back to pass. He doesn't have anybody, but the guy stunting around then comes around the center in between the center and Lewis and ends up getting the sack on Russ.
Again,
or it may not have, maybe that was the Was that the throw that Russ had to get rid of early? That was to
I think it was a sack, but it might have been that one.
yeah.
But I think the point for sure is like, yeah, you could tip the hat, but also like that stuff's on film. Can't we got players like that. We got ballers. Can't we do some of that stuff too? So, all right, we got to get back to the flock, but that's what I'm hoping for.
At Mick G 2587 out defense overall, but more specifically Flowers, obviously, and Adams. Adams doesn't offer anything right now. No use deep and easily blocked or directed away when blitzing. Out, third and long screen passes in. Lockett being okay.
Yeah, he's got all that right. The Lockett being okay part, probably the most important for heading forward. But thank you, Mike, for hitting us up out on Twitter. We had Design Pete's Beach House. This is going to be a bit of a theme here, folks. Out Flowers again and again. And you know what, Amy, you're right.
Yes, it was seven targets to Flowers' direction, 7 receptions, 100% completion percentage, and 78 yards when they're throwing. Oh, and not only that, this is gonna bug you, Clinton. Yards after the catch, 36 yards after the catch when throwing against Trey Flowers.
Yeah, and somehow, some way, somebody like, well, nobody got behind him. Like that'll be the thing. It's like, yeah, but there was so much, too much cushion for the pushing.
Let's look at this difference here. DJ Reed, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 29 yards, 0 yards after the catch. Now, unfortunately, 2 of those were touchdown passes. So you run after the catch when it's into the end zone. But yeah, it's a difference.
Well, hey, listen, Reed didn't play great either. However, like you led the show out saying, hey, we had some warts coming into the year to see them really being picked on by week 3, and us hopefully we'll make the change to Sidney Jones. And with that, then we got to hope that works. Like Sidney Jones, like I don't know about you, I didn't know Sidney Jones before the preseason. I wasn't sitting there, banging the drum skull style for freaking Sidney Jones.
You're saying it's possible that Sidney Jones is worse than Flowers. Like you're saying that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, you know what? In the world of the multiverse, it is a possibility. However, I can't see even if he is, I doubt he'd be much worse because you're reaching a theoretical maximum there as it is. So, all right, let's bring it back to the flock. We still got plenty to crush through.
Josh DeHuman into Robert Gimdichi with pressure on Cousins, into Jake Curran getting his time to shine for the Seahawks at right tackle.
Yeah, and great to call him out. I mean, that's a great story. I don't know. I don't have a good feeling for how he did. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's PFF grades are out there, I'm sure, but
you got a sense that he wasn't terrible, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. And again, I didn't get to go watch this one again and really dive into that just yet. Hopefully he played okay.
He gave up 3 pressures on 18 pass blocking snaps. So 1 quarterback hit, 2 hurries, and the PFF grade isn't great, but the results are what I look at when
he didn't look like a turnstile. That's we've seen turnstiles out there as our backup, so at least we got that going for us. So, and also we had right hand Dan.
He didn't false start.
Yeah, he didn't false start, and oh my gosh, the Bears, freaking mile. Was it 9 sacks? 9 sacks with a really mobile quarterback. Hey, listen, the biggest in. We're not the Jets. We're not the Bears. We're not the Giants. Like there's some things to be thankful for. We are not those teams because boy, oh boy, are they disasters. All right. Not a disaster. Right hand Dan in the Discord in Dwayne Brown's off-season preparation. I'm not sure if it just means sitting out the whole time to be healthy, lifting like a friggin' machine and just being jacked. But right hand Dan wants to give Dwayne Brown love. I'm not going to stop the man.
He had a fun play, a couple plays early on in this game with Carson to where, well, I think you pointed out one of the blocks on the edge that he gave, and it was either a play immediately before that or 2 plays before where they actually lined Dwayne Brown up on the right side of the line.
Yeah, you talked about that.
That's right. Yeah, it was well, because you look and you tend, you look for Brown at the end of the left side of the line where he goes, and it was some tight end who I think it was Disley who was lined up there in his spot, and I'm looking at that going, well, that's weird. Where's Dwayne Brown? And oh, look at that. He's over on the right side. They run to the right side. They get a nice little gain out of the deal. I thought that was, in terms of wrinkles that you look at for Shane Waldron being on the
It's
team. That was
creativity. Hey, Ken Norton Jr., just go look what Shane Waldron's doing. He's moving dudes around. He's not doing the same thing 92% of the time. And actually, bloody bootlace in the Discord, that was the play he was pointing out, Brandon. So exactly what you just said. And then you came back in and said, hey, that's the one I think you're saying when he's on the right-hand side. So credit to Waldron and credit to Dwayne Brown's versatility, because that was a cool play too.
B-Wag's biceps out every effing time we get a big stop on third down. It's negated by a stupid penalty on the other side of the field.
We talked about that. We hinted at the Amadi penalty.
We gave lots of hints at the Ugo Amadi penalty, and this is direct. This is not hinting. This is directly pointing to that penalty.
A lot of breadcrumbs led us to this B-Wags biceps Discord, comment here, and it was it's just away. It's just the thing. It's away from the play. You don't need to do it. And by the way, pop quiz here, Brandon. Who was directly behind Ugo Amadi? Like, who had the deep middle behind Amadi on that particular play? Do you remember?
Flowers.
It's Flowers. So in my brain, I'm like, I just wonder if Amadi is like, dude, I can't let this guy. I can't let him pass me. In my head, I'm like, is he overcompensating because he knows that if he gets into Flowers land, well, that's 5 freaking yards of cushion, circumference of 5 yards.
You thought about this in the way that how could I give the out to Flowers for Ugo Amadi's mistake? And so those are the mental gymnastics that you went through. I love
that. Correct. And I do want to give some love to Beast Mode Christopher, all the way from Germany in the Discord. He says Disley taking another soul. I think it was a 39-yard, reception. When Disley's kind of a thoroughbred, like he's just like an old school gladiator who's got like a chariot thing going. Like when he gets motoring, he's smooth out there, and he's more athletic than I think people realize. And he makes first tacklers look dumb often. The first dude who tries to tackle Disley in the open field often doesn't get the job done. So really nice job by Disley. We talked about, hey, we got the tight ends involved in bigger ways again. We just need more of it, Brandon. We just need more consistency. Dang it.
We do. And Frost, consistently going back to the Amadi play here. I like how Frost brings up that we might have a new thing to point to for the show, the MDC, the most damaging cranny. And for the momentum shift that penalty seemed to offer the Vikings, that may have been it.
I love the flock. I love you all. And we're not adding things that are negative. We're not adding negatives, but I understand it. And it's like in Jerry Maguire when he's talking about it. He's talking about his brother after he signs his contract, right? He's like, I love you. He's like, you're militant, but I love you, and or something like that. It's a great job by what's his face, the
Frost.
No, wait, who is it?
And Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, but the athlete, the guy who plays the Arizona Cardinal.
Yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr.
Thank you. The whole time I'm like thinking like in Men of Honor, he's awesome in that old submarine. That I could recall. I could recall the whole thing where he's walking with the thing to save the day, but I can't remember. It's Cuba freaking Gooding Jr. So shame on me again. All right, Clemson Pepper. Let's bring this one here. He goes, I want an out for that punt. I demand it. Seattle decided to punt to Minnesota from the Seattle 43 on that 4th and 7, 11:48 to go when we're down 27-17. Now, okay, I got you.
Pepper is quoting the Ben bot on Twitter that puts out the most cowardly punts, right?
Yes. So he gives the surrender index of 3.68, in the 82nd percentile of cowardly punts. So, Pepper, listen, I'll gladly give you the chance here on the flock, but I also want to say that down 10 with a lot of time left in the fourth quarter, when the ball is on your side of the field, is not the worst time to punt, because can we get Dixon to pin the ball at the 2-yard line and then actually do something good? Like in my brain, and probably Carol's, that's still a very real possibility. Like pin them at the 3-yard line, actually get an interception, get something going. I know it didn't break that way, but I am not on team never kick. I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not either, and I will agree with Pepper on this one. That on 4th and 7 at midfield, down 10, it's a good time. You go for it there. You just do. You go for it there, and based off of it, it's because Clinton, based on what we've seen from the defense the entire day. Now, if we'd seen them make a stop at all, if we'd seen the Minnesota Vikings punter enough times to know that he actually made it to the stadium to get out there and be on the field, then I would think a little bit differently. But that didn't happen, and they needed to go for it there to have a chance at winning.
All right, it's okay that you both could be wrong on this one. It's all good.
Jeremy Evergreen says, I don't even know where to start with this game. Maybe the best in was that I didn't puke.
Very well said, Jeremy. Jeremy did leave a lot more, and just for the sake of time, I cut it out. I said, you know what? Sometimes less is more, and that first line did it for me, Jeremy. So thank you.
It did look like you gave it an awfully short crop on this.
Oh yeah, I gave it a little trim job because I mean he said it perfectly. What else has to be said? He didn't puke, So that's not not a bad day for me. And we'll end it with Daniil here. So Daniil in the Discord. He's quoting Bob Condata and says Seattle has been outgunned 224-42 in the second half.
And that's going to be like going back to 2 seasons, right?
It has to be. It's only been 3 games, and there's been, yeah, this is not Arena League all of a sudden. So it's
I know the defense is bad, but have we given up 224 points this season?
Yeah, no, not yet. Not that I know of. I don't know how far back that goes. It doesn't matter.
I don't like that I have to even question it. Like,
correct. It's UGLY, and Daniil don't need no alibi here. It's just disgusting. So, but hey, this is what we do on 3 and 3 out. We do love running through everything from the flock. We could have more debates. We could have great discussions about it. It's all about the passion. It's all about what we all do derive a lot of joy and sometimes the opposite of joy from this team. But that's what being a fanatic is all about. That's what, hey, we decide to spend our time here and you decide to spend your time with us. So we're super, super pumped about that. All right, Brandon, let's close this maybe just very quickly with, was it 37 seconds to go? Rodgers with the ball. Somehow Green Bay sneaks away. What do you think that does? They beat the Niners. What do you think that does for this upcoming game? Is it like the 0-2 Vikings? They had to win this home game. Is it good the Niners lost? Is it bad the Niners lost? How do you take it?
Well, now we don't get to once again end the 49ers perfect streak like we did a couple years back. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah. I don't know if it matters. I just know that I liked what I saw. The fact that now it worried me a little bit, the fact that Jimmy G actually drove the length of the field and got a touchdown with 30 seconds left to go. But then it made me happy once again when they were able to get that field goal for the win. What a day for kickers yesterday.
Yeah, no kidding. Whether Justin, I mean, obviously all across the board there, the Tucker thing was just phenomenal. I know people are harping about the 5-yard delay a game. I get it, but that ain't Justin Tucker's fault. He's the one. He's not the one who didn't
Nobody
call
was paying attention to that. They were going, "Can this dude make it from 66 yards?"
Right, exactly. And evidently he can and did. So no, really, really cool thing there as well. And we'll roll here, right? We're 1 and 2. And
let me say one thing.
Hit it.
More losses for the 49ers is better. I don't care if that it came in at the end. I wanted the loss. And so if it gives them any kind of motivation going into this game, so be it. I want more losses for the 49ers than wins.
Always and forever more.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.